Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Chris Boardman. We welcome the veterans who have served, those who are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Edmond Woodward Johnson. Edmond Johnson was born Edmond Woodward Charles Henry Johnson on the 25th of April 1896, the son of Frederick and Emma Johnson of Hobart. He was educated at the Xi'an State School, where he was a Boy Scout and a cadet. He grew up in a large family with at least 3 siblings dying in infancy. In 1906, when Edmond was 10 years old, the family's 6-room cottage in Xi'an was destroyed by fire in the early hours of the morning. Edmond's father was able to ensure that all 12 children made it out safely. At some point after this, his family moved to the Northern Territory, living in 2.5 miles, now the suburb of Parap, near Darwin. With his father working as an engine driver, Edmond gained employment in the railway yards as a blacksmith striker. Edmond was the 3rd Johnson brother to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force, doing so just before his 20th birthday in March 1916. At just 5 foot 3 inches tall, or 160 centimetres, he only just cleared the height requirements for enlistment. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 47th Battalion in August of 1916. Private Johnson was first sent to England, where he continued training on the Salisbury Plain for 2 months. From there he was sent to France, reaching his battalion in the field in early February 1917. Within days, his battalion took part in an attack on German positions near the French village of Bullecourt, which failed with heavy casualties. Johnson came through unscathed and remained with his battalion as its operations moved to the north around Ypres in Belgium later in the year. On the 12th of October, the 47th Battalion took part in the Battle of Passchendaele. Launching their attack in the early hours of the morning, the men made good progress despite the ground being saturated and boggy by the recent rain. At 5:45 a.m, however, battalion headquarters had come under a heavy German bombardment, making nearly all of the battalion's signallers, runners and scouts casualties. Private Johnson volunteered to become a replacement stretcher bearer, and he was later commended for his gallant work both in carrying and dressing the wounded. The commanding officer of the 4th Australian Division, Major General Sinclair McLagden, noted in his congratulatory message that Johnson worked unceasingly under heavy machine gun fire and showed great determination. The 47th Battalion spent most of the winter of 1917 and 1918 rotating in and out of the front line as offensive operations slowed for the winter. On the 21st of March 1918, the Germans launched a massive attack known as the German Spring Offensive, which seriously threatened Allied positions. 3 days after the German offensive began, the 47th Battalion, which had been training in Belgium, was rushed to the south. By the 27th of March, the men were marched into a position near the railway line at Dernancourt. There they came under heavy German shell fire, followed by an infantry attack. Although the Germans managed to gain a foothold in the Australian position, they were driven out by desperate fighting, with heavy casualties on both sides. One of the Australians killed was Private Edmond Johnson. During this operation, Private Johnson had been a machine gunner in his company, a key component to the defence of Dernancourt. Johnson's corporal wrote, "His last fight was against tremendous odds. He was in command of the machine gun team, and the confidence he inspired in his men went far to holding the enemy in his sector of the line." Anderson added to his message to Edmond's parents, "In every action for the past 9 months, Edmond displayed unusual qualities of cheerfulness under hardship and coolness in extremity. The loss of such a son must be very severely felt by his parents, but pride must mingle with it. The name of the Australian Army has been made by men like him." The exact manner of Johnson's death is unknown, and his body was lost in the vicious fighting of the following days. Today, his is one of nearly 11,000 names on the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux. He was 22 years old. Edmond Johnson's name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name is listed on the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux, is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Edmond Woodward Johnson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.